leadership in a global organization is different than that of a domestic organization. It's a lot more complex, just like everything else. But let's talk about some of these complexities as you go through, as it relates really to the whole thing of a global mindset as you go through. It's a lot of ideas and values. They combine with an openness and awareness of the fact there's diversity across the markets as they go through. If you have an American market, to some extent, you have a homogeneous market that is similar across the entire continental United States. But once you step out, you go to Alaska, you have a little bit different culture. The people are different as you go through. They're more rugged, they're more outdoorsy as you go through. Their standard transportation isn't a highway as they go through. A lot of times it's in the airways as they go through, because having a float plane is pretty common in Alaska as you go through. But wait, let's go to Hawaii, which is a 6-hour flight as you go through, and it's got a really different culture than that of Kansas as you go through. So even there you have differences, but just go from California to New England, you'll see cultural differences, and we're all speaking generally the same language as you go through. Now, let's take a US mindset as you go through, and let's put that leader in the US, let's park them in the middle of India. Everything is different in India as you go through. Over here, the people can be warmer and friendlier as they go through. They're more open. The socioeconomic status is much different as you go through. The standard of living is much lower in the process as they're a developing nation as you go through. There's a bigger population. If you go through, they're in a process of actually rising up as a developing nation into a developed nation. So it's very different from a cultural setting, from an economic setting. So you have to sit down and be open to the diversity of the markets as you go through. And you have to look at the intellectual intelligence as you go through, as well as the global emotional intelligence. Let me just step back for a second and talk about emotional intelligence. It really was propagated by a gentleman called Daniel Goleman. He's an American psychologist. He helped popularize emotional intelligence, and he says there's 5 key elements to it. Now, by the way, there are some research issues on really this whole aspect of emotional intelligence, but generally it's accepted on a general basis. But on self-awareness, it's about self-regulation, it's about motivation, empathy, and social skills. And really, people that are high in these 5 areas actually do a good job in leading. So we talk about these 5. In the global aspect, we're also talking about it really on a basis when it comes down to here, looking at it as to how we run a company. Really, you have 4 different overlapping dimensions of complexity between these 5 aspects of it. They're good, except now we're going to sit down and apply them on a global basis as you go through. The multiplicity, not just one culture, but multiple cultures. The interdependence between the cultures and the decision-making between them as you go through. And there's an awful lot of ambiguity. Here, let's do a partnership with the UK. We speak generally the same language, English, except there are cultural differences. Even though you have a similar language in the process, you have major cultural differences, and something that works here on the West Coast in California or even the East Coast may not work at all in England, from the marketing strategy, from the concept of how the people think as you go through. Ambiguity, sometimes things are general, you don't understand all the different aspects of the dynamics as you go through. So you have 4 different aspects of it as you go through. So the behaviors and process of organizing people really is very different because of the complexity as you go around the world. Here's a series of different aspects of it. The leader innovates, the manager administrates. You've probably heard all this before. The leader develops things and the manager maintains. The leader challenges the status quo, then the manager just accepts it. So you have a whole series of things. The leader originates, the manager imitates, the leader inspires, the manager controls as you go through. All these things, they're standard trite sayings as you go through, except now you're dealing with critters across the entire planet because of the fact that you have different levels of things that are leaders. You have different cultural differences as you go through. You have high context cultures like Japan and low context cultures like the United States. You have different aspects as to all the different components. If you came across and go plowing into a Japanese organization acting like an American, you can step into all kinds of trouble because of the fact you may insult people without even realizing what's going on. As a Japanese, If you're coming into an American thing, you'll be maybe appalled by some of the casualness of the American culture as you go through, and the lack of formality that could really frustrate you in the aspect of people not following proper protocol. So there's differences between them. And now, even though these sayings here, they tend to be trite and casual over the last multiple decades, as to the leader innovates and the manager administrates. That's all nice talk, but also now it takes on a different meaning because of the fact a Japanese leader to innovate is very different from an American leader innovating as you go through. So here are 6 different aspects that we go through. We look at a global leadership, but why it's different. It's more performance oriented as you go through it. And so here's all the series of things, and you see these styles are more successful on a global base than they are on a domestic base as you go through. Performance oriented, team oriented, participative, humane is a big deal, autonomous and self-protective to make certain that the organization is safe, as well as your position is safe as well as you go through the process. So these 6, they're more exemplified on a global basis than domestic as you go through. A lot of times you're looking for the people that have the right stuff as you go through in the process. So on a global mindset, we want to pay against from the domestic aspect, multiplicity, interdependence, ambiguity, and dynamicism as you go through. And then also the styles that are more successful: performance orientation, team orientation, participative, humane, autonomous, and self-protective. These are all the components that make up a global mindset, which sets it just a little bit different than a domestic aspect of running a corporation. Take care.